or an idiot. We will see how strongly the founders, especially those primary political rivals, Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, stressed the importance of a happy marriage in a man's life. Thanks to his 5 years in France as America's ambassador, Jefferson was able to compare American and European marriage customs and found America's far superior. Fidelity was virtually unknown among the French upper classes. Jefferson advised young Americans to abandon dreams of a grand tour, lest they acquire the old world's attitude toward women. Recent decades of scholarship in herstory have made us aware of a dark side of women's lives in the 18th century. Other than from private tutors, they had almost no educational opportunities. Divorce was seldom granted by the courts, and a woman's property was legally controlled by her husband. On the eve of America's independence, we will see proto-feminist Abigail Adams protesting these inequalities in a famous letter to her husband, John, and his less well-known, extremely unsatisfying reply. A woman also had little control over her reproductive life. Pregnancy and childbirth were dangerous. Equally troubling was the awful infant mortality rate. The primitive medicine of the era made childhood almost as perilous. By late middle age, Martha Washington had lost all 4 of her children to death. Martha Wales Jefferson lost 4 out of 6 children in 10 years. Benjamin Franklin's marriage was poisoned by his wife's bitterness over the death of their 4-year-old son, Frankie, while his hated illegitimate half-brother, William, thrived. As Franklin's story makes clear, the founders' marriages were not without controversy. Did George Washington recklessly pursue other women after he married Martha, as the British and later his American political enemies claimed? Is there convincing proof that Thomas Jefferson had a long-term sexual relationship with his mulatto slave, Sally Hemings? Why did the curvaceous, well-off widow, Dolley Payne Todd, marry pint-sized, sickly James Madison? As First Lady, Dolley had to deal with vicious rumors about her sex life. She met them with a shrewdness that wives of contemporary politicians might well emulate. All the women in the founders' lives had to confront and cope with fame. This little-understood phenomenon transformed many aspects of their private lives into public dramas. The fame that the founders sought and won was not the same as our modern version of it, mere celebrity. For them, fame was an enormously serious matter, involving a man's place in history. It was reserved for founders or rescuers of nations, or givers of laws, and required the approval of men of judgment and intelligence. All the founders were aware that the revolutionary upheaval and the task of creating a nation gave them unique opportunities to win this ultimate accolade. "You and I," John Adams wrote to a Virginia friend in 1777, "have been sent into life at a time when the greatest lawgivers of antiquity would have wished to live." In 1778, Alexander Hamilton wrote a pamphlet attacking certain congressmen who were using their positions to get rich. Hamilton could not understand how a man could succumb to such a mean pursuit when he had a chance to be the founder of an empire. A man of virtue and ability, dignified with so precious a trust, would rejoice that fortune had given him birth at such a time. Washington, debating whether to risk his fame by endorsing the dubious idea of a constitutional convention in 1787, told a friend, "To see this country happy is so much the wish of my soul. Nothing on this side of Elysium can be placed in competition with it." For some women, this kind of fame could be a stimulant, but it could also be a beast in the jungle, almost an evil spirit. This was especially true of Abigail Adams, who had to endure years of agonizing loneliness while her husband pursued diplomatic fame in Europe. Even worse was Elizabeth Hamilton's ordeal when her husband defended his fame as the creator of the new nation's financial system by making a public confession of his infidelity with a Philadelphia temptress. When we explore the wives' influence on these famous lives, we discover evidence so strong, it can easily be asserted in some cases, that of John Adams, for instance, that the great man would never have earned his place on fame's ladder